Welcome to our Vault Shorts. These are shorter episodes highlighting programs and resources here in our Billings community. Joining us today for this Vault Short is Mike with Veterans Navigation Network.
The following is a Big Sky Economic Development production.
It's Mars B.
And Cavo.
And this is The Vault at 201 North Broadway.
A business podcast.
Where we bring you entrepreneurs, small business owners, and community leaders of Montana.
To share their stories, expertise, industry insights, and strategies.
And we are sharing them all with you every single week.
You don't want to miss this.
Learn how to better start, manage, and grow your business.
And your leadership style.
Tangible takeaways to save you time and improve whatever it is that you're working on.
You're listening to The Vault.
Thank you to the Small Business Development Center for sponsoring The Vault at 201 North Broadway. The Small Business Development Center offers free personalized support from business plans to financial projections and beyond, empowering small businesses to thrive. Reach out to us at bigsky.economicdevelopment.org.
Welcome, Mike. We're glad to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate the invite.
Yeah, thanks. We're really excited to talk to you about VNN. Before we dive into that, if you want to just share a little bit about you and what led you to the role you have now.
Sure. Yeah. Originally from Miles City, and then in 1987, I enlisted in the Air Force, and 2 weeks after graduation, I was at Lackland Air Force Base in Texas. So 20 years in the service, several deployments, long time in 19 months in Korea as well, and of course Iraq and Yugoslavia and all kinds of fun places. But when I retired, it was at Navy Base, Ventura County, Port Hueneme, out in beautiful Ventura, California. So I became the county's veteran service officer and did that for 10 years, and then returned to Montana back in August, or actually June of 2020, and started working for Veterans Navigation Network shortly thereafter.
Wow. So you moved back then, found the job.
Yes. Yeah, it was time to leave California.
Yeah.
And it was, well, like I said, June of 2020, so things were getting, the whole world was going crazy, but California, of course, they're always ahead of the crazy curve. And it was definitely time to go ahead and return home.
Well, thank you for your service.
Oh, my pleasure.
And a long, dedicated service. So you've had a lot of experience, lots and lots of experience. What's your role? Well, let's not talk about role first. Let's talk about VNN. What do you guys do?
Navigation Network. Yeah.
So our founder, Blake Furman, he's a former Army Ranger, 3 tours in Afghanistan.
Wow.
And as he would say, basically he was on a jump and broke his back, and that was pretty much the end of, the Army career type of thing. And his transition was a little difficult, trying to find the person who can kind of guide and actually give you information on a variety of things, employment, VA, that sort of thing. And after several years, he kind of had it figured out, but he vowed that, no veteran would have to go through, kind of a similar transition from the service to civilian career. And in October of 2019 is when Veterans Navigation Network started. And he was meeting vets in coffee shops and parking lots before that. But that's officially when it started, and we've been going strong ever since.
Wow.
What are some services somebody can take from utilizing you guys?
Yeah, so we try not to duplicate anyone else's service. We're not equine therapy. We're not a gym. We're not, going to train a psych service dog or something like that. What we're going to do is we're going to sit down with that veteran or that family member. We definitely can't forget the family members. And we're going to listen to what their whole story is, kind of that holistic, type of a thing. And we'll get them plugged into with people we know are going to, no kidding, assist them. So that could be anything from federal VA benefits, which of course there's, disability compensation, and we actually help vets prepare their claim. So if they're a Vietnam vet, or we still see, some Korean in World War II, but a lot of Vietnam vets, and of course our younger vets with burn pits and all kinds of different things like that can get kind of complex. So we can work that with them. Maybe there's VA health care, that sort of thing. Survivor benefits is another big thing that we work on as well. We also have a lot of veterans that are ineligible for VA services. because of their discharge characterization. Sometimes they've earned it, and that's just the way it's going to go. But sometimes it's they're combat vets with, a couple tours, and they're not sleeping. They're basically mind, body, soul, have some damage to them. And they're not going to do drugs, prescription meds and things, but they think maybe that, marijuana will help me sleep or help with chronic pain. Well, zero tolerance in the service is still zero tolerance regardless. It's kind of sad when they know that they're going to discharge and, maybe a multi-tour combat vet based on that, but they do, unfortunately, all too frequently, and we can help that veteran get it upgraded. So we do that kind of service as well. And there's also, Montana has some veterans benefits. We got a lot of work we need to do, but there's some benefit there. So we want to make sure we get them plugged into that. But there's just so many nonprofits and really great, faith-based groups and whatnot who really pick up the slack. Well, actually, they're kind of the tall pole in the tent, to be honest with you, when it comes to whether it's employment and education, healthcare, and a lot of things. So only about 50%, a little over 50% of veterans in Montana actually use the VA for anything. So that's, rely on the local community for a lot of those services.
Which I'm guessing from the sounds of it, when you get out, they don't just give you like a little guidebook on here's what to do next and the things to sign into. And
they've actually got a garden hose, or actually a big fire hose, and they just kind of turn it on full blast and, all kinds of information. And, usually, if you're retiring or something like that, you've got 20 some years in, you're paying attention to everything. But if it's maybe your first tour and you got or your first enlistment, and you got a couple tours and you're just like, I'm done. I want to use that GI Bill. You're thinking probably, where's the next roof over my head? And am I going to work or go to school? And a lot of the other stuff just really doesn't compute, if you will. However, not too long after getting out, they realize, wow, I really should be using some of these benefits. And that's where we come in.
And so tell us a little bit about, are you guys meeting with these people, spouses, veterans, ongoing after, or is it kind of like that first you meet for a while, they get set up, they're ready to go, and then that's it? Or is it more of a long term?
Yeah, it really depends on the situation. Some of our, veterans or our spouses, surviving spouses, need some follow on, because it's a complicated process depending upon what it is they're going for. So we will do follow up. A lot of case management is what we do. So follow up, but we also have 17 peer mentors, and then the 3 of us on staff also, provide that. So if we've got a veteran who might need a little more frequent follow up, maybe help setting some goals and things like that, that's where our peer mentors can be very helpful. And then, of course, it could be twice a month or once a month. It really depends upon what the individual needs. It just depends on the situation, on how much contact we might have with somebody.
So what's a peer mentor like? What's that process for those mentors to get into your system to become a mentor? Yeah,
in fact, we actually did just kind of a low-level marketing type of a thing because we needed some more peer mentors, and we got 4 new female peer mentors. So if for my male veteran cohorts out there, if you want to be a peer mentor for us, basically it's just as simple as you can go to our website and just contact us, say, hey, I'd like to be, have more information on being a peer mentor. And really what that is, we go through, some training and things like that. And there's obviously some kind of, QPR, suicide awareness training. But really, how do you ask questions, goal setting? And many of our peer mentors, they wouldn't be selected if they didn't already know how to do this kind of stuff. But really, it's just, how capable are you at helping someone else develop some goals without, we don't want the peer mentor doing it for them. But then kind of, hold someone else accountable for doing it and that kind of thing. And they've got some free time. We're looking probably 2 to 3 hours per month. Typical assignment goes for 12 months. We've only had actually in the 3 years we've had the program, one pair come to the end of that 12 months and the mentee was good to go. So they just, parted ways and, hey, away you go. But most are like, hey, we've been doing this for 12 months. So why not just kind of keep meeting? Maybe now it's only, once a month or something like that, but they still keep that relationship going and the, infrequent, but still having the check-ins.
Yeah.
How impactful have you seen that connection with a peer mentor be for these individuals?
extremely impactful. We had one individual, and you don't necessarily know. I mean, you can guess, but we had one mentee. I mean, he was very specific. He got a lot of depression and things like that. We had worked with him for about a year and a half on some upgrades and getting him some VA medical and some disability compensation, things like that. And there was some, definitely some depression, some suicidal ideation and things like that. Well, we didn't know at the time, but his mother had a fairly serious illness, cancer, and he had circled the date that she had passed away. And it was about 6 months, a year, something like that out. And basically he had told himself, if nothing changes by the time I come up on her, anniversary of her death, he was going to kill himself. And a lot, luckily, had changed because of our peer, VNN in general, but certainly because of the peer mentor that he had and just working with him. And he always had a goal. He wanted to go to Alaska and be a Alaskan state trooper. And he's actually right now, I mean, there's a series of testing, but he moved to Alaska several months ago, and he's a dispatcher. In law enforcement up there. So he's getting closer to it, but we had no idea. And he told us that not too long before he left to go up there that, it was getting close, but things started to change, and it really, that peer mentor-mentee relationship gave him the hope that he needed.
That's like an amazing, wow. And knowing that, so he's in Alaska, do you guys do your services? Are they just in Montana and in the county, or are they expanded?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly, primarily Yellowstone County and kind of eastern Montana, but we've really expanded across the state. But given the experience that we've helped veterans across the U.S. We even helped one veteran in the PI or the Philippines when he had some issues with VA healthcare over there in the Philippines and stuff like that. So it's really, having that network and listening to people and then plugging them in where they need to, which really allows a lot of our, just amazing partners to focus on their core function and let us, take care of, some of these other things, especially the case management.
Mm-hmm. So tell us, what are some other programming things that you guys administer? So you're connected to a peer network of mentors that you oversee. What are some of those other things?
Yeah, so we've actually got one of our members, Mike Foose. He goes into the Yellowstone County Detention Center. He's also involved in CAMO, or it's Veterans Treatment Court. Okay. Both at the, the state level, which is what we call CAMO Court, and then at the federal level, Glacier Court. So for veterans that are justice involved, he's the one who interacts with them. And of course, with the treatment courts, it's all about getting the treatment and dealing with, whatever the crime might be, later. And as long as they're doing what they need to, good things can result. When it comes to the Yellowstone Detention Center, obviously, those are individuals who have been in there 6 months, 2 years, 4 years, whatever it might be. So he meets with them ideally about, 3 to 4 months before they get out, kind of do some discharge planning, because Lord knows, I mean, if you've been locked up, you're going to need, get reconnected with the VA, or maybe initially. Certainly employment, housing is definitely a big issue. Sometimes transportation can be as well. But then also little things. We had one individual, he had some hearing aids through the VA. But once you're incarcerated for 61 days or more on a felony type of conviction, it's Department of Corrections. It's not the VA anymore. So he was having trouble getting his hearing aid fixed, and Mike went in and was talking to him. He says, well, give me your hearing aid. So he went over to a local audiologist here, and the guy was looking at it. Well, that's easy enough, $12 fix. And he took it back to him, and the amount of anxiety that was reduced for the veteran, because obviously he could hear a heck of a lot better, which means life was better for just everyone around him, that kind of thing. So it kind of ranges from, hey, employment, healthcare to, let's just do this little fix and it can improve its quality of life, make things a little bit better.
Oh, yeah. I can't imagine not being able to. And you're just frustrated and
sure.
taking it out in ways that maybe you wouldn't if you could just do something like here.
Yeah. Something we all take for granted. But
hearing, seeing,
absolutely.
We definitely take that for granted.
So you are here in Yellowstone County. How big is your team? Do you have multiple people throughout the state, or?
Yeah. So actually, what we do, it's through a network. We've got 3 employees here. We're hiring 2 new veteran resource navigators, is what we call them, and they'll be working with. We have a Native American program as well. Because that population is almost always overrepresented within that veteran population. Long, proud history of serving, usually in the Army or the Marine Corps, but just in general. We have probably 3,200 Native American veterans in the state.
Wow.
Between Bighorn and Rosebud counties, between Crow Agency and Northern Cheyenne Nation, probably about 375, 400. So,
wow.
So we've got a program to meet with, the tribes, the tribal chairpersons, as well as they've got someone within each tribe or nation that helps with their veterans. But then we also have 5 Native American urban health centers that offer some really amazing things. So we want to partner with them, make sure that, they're part of the overall network. We do have some things, and hopefully they come to fruition, where we all are able to expand and actually have a VNN, employee in some additional cities. But we'll see how that stuff plays out. Mm-hmm. And what we do have, though, is, advocacy. So we're part of the Governor's Challenge to End Veteran Suicide, and that could be a whole hour-long podcast right there in and of itself. But we've got some good partners we rely on across the state. But we stood up the Veterans Subcommittee within the Behavioral Health Advisory Council. So states who get some federal funding for suicide prevention, but really mental health, they have to have one of these advisory councils, and they also have to have certain subcommittees, veterans, youth, peer, for parents, things like that. So anyway, through that network, and we've got 9 different partners, actually 10. We just added Butte. Yeah, we just added Butte. So they really, inform the subcommittee so we can take stuff to the overall council. But when we've got a veteran in Butte or Bozeman or Kalispell or even Scobie, that area, Box Elder, we can connect them because we're going to reach out to these individuals. So they're not VNN, employees, but we work very closely with all of them. And, we all have the same goal of taking care of our veterans and their family members. So we just reach out, and it could be Bozeman. We really want to work more on the eastern side of the state, which, we've got Scobie and whatnot, but we want to, get into Miles City and Glendive and that kind of thing as well. And that's what we're looking at right now.
So you guys are small but mighty. Really, because 3 people, you do a lot of work, good work, and just to have and be really connected. Which, how did that for you guys starting in 2019? What did that look like starting out, building those connections and just really building that network?
Yeah, fortunately with Blake, at the time he was full-time with Riverstone Health. And, at the time in 2020, he was working with their, a lot of the COVID testing and things like that. But he eventually moved up and he was a senior director. So, as far as the healthcare and behavioral health, there was a lot of connections there. But really, when I came on board and, just started attending a lot of different coalition meetings and just, getting out there in the community, chamber and different organizations like that. And just, it just kind of grew from there, 1 person and then 2 and then 4. And we also took over kind of running the Eastern Montana Veterans Service Provider Network. And we've got in-person and virtual meetings, and a lot of those partners are involved or invited to a lot of our events and things. So really when we kind of took that on, that definitely expanded that network. But we do a lot of traveling. Browning to, Fort Peck and everywhere in between. Yeah. So just, those meetings and kind of bringing people into the fold, letting them know what we can do, and then bringing them in as well to, increase that network.
Yeah. Wow. So you guys are on the road.
A lot of windshield time.
Yes, absolutely.
A lot of work, going to things, just being really well connected.
Yes.
You mentioned, networking opportunities. Are there other types of events that people can just come to and learn more about what you guys do, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, we do some informational events. We've got a couple coming up that I'll mention. We also do social events, which are strictly just, for fun. Like tonight, we've got one. We have what we call Family Connect. And again, we got to make sure, it's not just the veteran or the service member. It is truly that family that's in it together. So we do different social events, and we've got tonight at 6 to 8 p.m. out at Zoo, Montana. So
cool.
People can come in. Yeah, if you're, a veteran and your family and you support veteran, whatever it is, you just come in and you'll see our table and that kind of thing. We'll get you connected. We're going to have one of their little huts or whatever it is out there for hot chocolate.
Yeah, they're fun. Yeah, and the fire pits.
Yep, absolutely.
The s'mores huts.
Yes, exactly. And then you'll get to be able to check out the lights. And really, all you have to do is pay for parking, which is like $5
it
or
is
something.
$5.
So, so that's strictly just a really fun thing. And we've got some informational events coming up. Now, this is where our partners want to share information either amongst themselves or with that veteran community. So we've got what we're calling the Protectors Summit. It's coming up next February 14th.
Oh, cool.
And it's part of the Montana Governor's Challenge. So really, this is bringing what we call protectors, or really any organization or individual that helps veterans. Whether they're doing that 24/7 or, they've got a program and they happen to see veterans as well. But what it does is it brings us together and we go over things like female veterans, Native American veterans, mental health, lethal means safety, that type of thing. And it's really, again, that networking as well, but it's strictly for those service providers, just to get to know each other and the issues better than what they do.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we've got our 4th annual resource fair coming up, and that's going to be on that Saturday, February 15th.
Okay.
Both events are at the Billings Hotel and Convention Center. But this one is where we're going to have, that's open to the community in general. Last year, or actually this February, we had 53 service providers, of which, maybe 15 to 17 are, veteran specific. So it's really open to the community because there's a lot of other, organizations that, if you got questions on from, Medicare to Social Security, employment, whatever it might be, you don't have to be a veteran, to come. And we definitely encourage people to do that. And we got a really interesting guest speaker coming up. His name is Ben Patton. Of course, the name Patton probably rings a bell to some people, especially, if you're World War II buffs. But his grandfather was General George S. Patton, Jr., and his father was, General George S. Patton the Fourth, I believe it was. But his dad, in and of himself, was pretty much badass. He was a major general, Korea, Vietnam.
Wow.
So anyway, he runs a program now called Patton Veterans Project. And really, it's through film, allowing veterans to tell their story, and maybe one that they haven't been able really to tell before. So he's going to be our guest speaker because at the end of February, the 28th of February through March 2nd, we're having one of their workshops out here. And we've got 6-7 vets right now. We're looking for maybe 8 more to be part of this project. And you get to tell your story, and it could be in front of the camera, behind the camera, writing the screenplay, pretty much whatever it is you want to do. And all this information can be found on our website as well as our Facebook page, or simply contact myself, and we'll get you whatever information you need. But Ben brings in, Academy Award winning cinema photographers, and he's got a lot of connections because that's what he did. 7 generations in the military. He went a little different tact, but again came back to the military, and as some of the stories are absolutely amazing.
That's really impactful.
So, yeah.
You guys have a lot going on.
We do.
And I know that's like, you're busy in 2025, but like you guys are busy all the time hosting things throughout the year, which I think is just awesome. And I think the work you guys do is really great for the community. Yeah. Yeah. So tell us what's so we talked about VNN. What's your role and what, your day to day? I know it's probably different. No day is the same. We joke that when people are like, what do you do? We're like, no day is the same. So I'm guessing that's the same for you a little bit.
There's certainly some themes, but you never really know, which I think kind of keeps it fresh and, exciting. But really, what drives us is, helping our fellow veterans. And all of us know someone who didn't, we deployed with or that situation who did not come back. So it's also part of it is honoring their memory and their sacrifice and that kind of thing. I wear 5 different bracelets, which of course, no one can see but the two of you. But those are for surviving spouses, veterans who have taken their life within about the last year and a half. Wow. And these are young widows, several of them. I mean, in their early 30s with children and that kind of thing. So we want to make sure we are there to assist them because we need to honor, a lot of that service and sacrifice. But yeah, any given day, I mean, certainly a lot of advocacy we do. We could be working on something with, one of the events we talked about, certainly, talking with veterans or surviving spouses, sometimes with the adult children of veterans, coming in with questions on, what is, dad eligible for? He's 92 and he's always said, save it for someone else. But, what is he eligible for? So we, kind of talk him through and then come up with a plan. Definitely working a lot with our, service providers. We got a lot of referrals going back and forth, a lot of meetings. There's a lot of, most of them are purposeful because if they're not, we're going to stop going. But, could have to do around substance abuse, certainly suicide prevention. Could be around some kind of legal type of thing. Mike Foose, I mentioned, who goes in the jails. He was just in Athens, Georgia last week attending a conference with Judge Nicely around that Veterans Treatment Court. So there's always training is certainly something that is ongoing. And then, of course, currently we're hiring 2 additional veterans navigators. And so that obviously is, part of what I'm working on. But really, most of it is just working with veterans or their family members to get them usually connected with some federal VA benefit, or we see a lot of emergency financial requests, and we work with Warrior Wishes Montana, does a lot of good work, VFW Post 6774 up in the Heights, and sometimes we got to kind of cobble some things together to make sure a veteran or that surviving spouse maybe has some new tires they need on the one vehicle they've got. We just had one individual who was fleeing a particular difficult situation and, put her up in a hotel for a couple nights before she was prepared to leave the area, that kind of thing. So, you just never really know, what situation you're going to be dealing with. And usually there's so many different layers, which is why, the case management. So we spend a lot of time following up and, hey, how's this going? Do you have this together? Do you have this prepared? So, taking good case notes so you can go back and say, hey, remember we talked about this, and just kind of, help with things because life happens for everybody and we forget some things or get kind of pushed to the, back in the priority list.
So tell us a little bit. So you've talked about the services, but how are you guys, for those listening, how's your organization structured? And then are your services, are they free? Do they charge? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. So anything we provide are free. And when it comes to really anything with that federal, VA claims and things like that, I caution people, there's no reason for you to pay anybody to help you file a disability comp claim, survivor benefits, VA pension, nothing at all. And they shouldn't be charging you because it's illegal. About the only time you might need to, obtain a lawyer is if there's, you've got a condition that's been denied and you're going for appeal. But we can advise on that as well. So people, if you definitely want to reach out to someone who knows what they're talking about, such as at VNN or like Lindsay Berge over with the Montana Veterans Affairs Division. They're the state level VA who has been accredited and been trained and really knows what's going on. So
wow. And so you guys are structured, right, as a nonprofit?
Oh, most definitely a nonprofit, yes.
Okay.
So, there's
for those listening, just so they know.
Yes, thank you. So, certainly, there's a certain amount of time spent writing grants and different funding like that. So really it's, some corporate sponsorships, got, individual donations, certainly, and then grants. We have looked at some federal funding. We'll see how that goes. With different levels or types of funding. There's pros and cons that come with each. We're also we got a couple proposals with DPHSS or the Department of Health and Human Services for the state. So we'll see how that goes. Again, there's pros and cons, depending upon the source. But right now, primarily grant funding.
Wow. And you guys do a lot. That's a lot of grants.
Yes, a lot of grants and
a lot of reporting.
And yes, absolutely. And that's one thing that, if some things go well, we'll be able to expand and hire someone where that's more or less, at least half of their focus.
Yeah.
Right now, Blake, who's our executive director, he stepped down from Riverstone in January of this year to be our full-time executive director, which has been great. But yeah, if we get someone to do that development or that sort of thing, allow him to do more of the executive director, we'll be better off. Yeah.
You kind of mentioned it before, and people can donate to you guys, but for those listening that may want to volunteer, what kind of ways can they volunteer and how do they do that?
Sure, absolutely. You can just go to our website, which is just, wouldn't you know it? I think you're going to put it up on the...
Yeah, we will, in the show notes.
All right, great, thank you. But anyway, you can just go to our website and you can just Google Veterans Navigation Network and it'll take you to our website.
Veteransnavigation.org.
There you go, thank you.
I know, so I always get confused on ours. I'm like, is it .com.org? I don't know.
Well, and then you've got our Facebook page, VetNavNet. And you can contact us through that as well and just say, hey, I want to volunteer. And you don't even have to really know what it is because we'll reach out to you. There's certainly behind the scenes admin kind of things that, require a lot of work, but tend to get kind of pushed, to the wayside because direct service is what we're about. So there's certainly that kind of those behind the scenes type of things, website, but also these events that come up require a lot of planning. So we've got one group working on the planning for the Protector Summit and another group on the Veterans Resource Fair. So if you like planning and contacting individuals and that sort of thing, you could reach out and say, hey, I want to help plan this event. And then of course the day of those events,
they're a lot of work.
Luckily, with the Billings Hotel and Convention Center, they take care of all the tables and the stage and stuff like that, which is nice. But we've got, breakout sessions and just, of course, welcome registration table. And there's always plenty to do. So if you want to, either volunteer to plan or just to help out with an event, you can certainly do that as well. And then if you are a veteran and you want to be a peer mentor, that's another way you could volunteer.
So lots of ways to get connected with you guys.
Absolutely.
So is there something you guys that's in the works that you have going on that we haven't asked about yet that you're like, oh, people should know this about us?
I really just encourage, I'm amazed, we still hear from people, oh, I didn't know you guys existed.
Yeah.
And
we struggle with that same thing.
Sure. Absolutely. Every place, I've been, someone's like, oh my God, how could you not know?
Yeah.
But if you don't really need or have a need, you don't seek it out. So you wouldn't know it. What I really want to encourage people to is don't wait on, especially like these federal benefits, to get enrolled in VA healthcare or disability compensation, because it does not get easier the more time goes by. In fact, it can actually get quite a bit more difficult. So I just want to encourage people to, if nothing else, just call and be aware. And if, you're a spouse of a veteran, I encourage you to call as well. And then maybe you can apply a little, pressure there and get your veteran to follow through on some things. I think probably two things I want to just make sure people are aware of. One is Montana 211, which is an absolutely amazing, really database. There's 5 different nonprofits across the state and 3 call centers. And people can either call 211 or they can go to montana211.org. And if they've got questions on legal, food, housing, senior services, you name it, you can get the information there. And you can search by county, by city.
Wow.
It's just absolutely amazing. Let's try to, get ahead of some of these things before they actually come to a crisis. And then another entity or part of that working on things ahead of time is what we call Bright app. And just BRIGHT app. And if you go to that montana211.org, you can click on Bright app, and it's a database of all behavioral health providers in the state. we've got a lot of serious issues around behavioral health in the state. And one of those, of course, is stigma. You're not going to go down to the local cattleman's bar and, saddle up and say, hey, Bob, who do you see? We'll drink about our problems, but we're not going to talk about them. However, if you've got, access to the internet, and you can go to Bright App and you're sitting in, I always pick on Baker, Montana, but maybe Ekalaka. Let's go with Ekalaka.
Okay. I was like, we can pick on Baker.
Yeah, okay. So what you can do is, come up and say, all right, you can search the database by what kind of insurance do they take, or, payment options. Are they taking telehealth? Are they taking new clients? And you can search by, I usually like Miles City. So, you're like, maybe there is a provider in Baker, but you're like, no, I don't want to have my car seen there. Okay. But there's a couple of providers in Miles City. You can reach out to them online or by the phone, and you could, end up being treated for, any number of things. Major depressive disorder, ADHD, you name it. Seasonal affective disorder, of course, is what we got, a lot going on now. And it could be for you or maybe, a loved one. And you could then, virtually attend your sessions, and no one's the wiser, but you're getting the help that you need, which is really the main thing. So I think really that Montana 2-in-1 and that Bright App are definitely a couple things I want people to know about.
And meeting people where they're at.
Absolutely.
Physically. But
yes.
If you want to just do something virtually, what a great option
Yep.
to get the great information that you need. Well, Mike, thanks for joining us on our podcast and sharing what you guys do. There's a lot going on, and we'll link everything we talked about in our show notes.
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed this episode.
Make sure you are subscribed to The Vault at 201 North Broadway wherever you podcast, including YouTube.
Connect with us on Facebook at The Vault at 201 North Broadway and Instagram at The Vault_201.
Don't forget to visit us at thevault@201.com and subscribe to our newsletter.
We will see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you to Big Sky Economic Development for supporting The Vault at 201 North Broadway. Big Sky Economic Development provides leadership and resources for business creation, expansion, retention, new business recruitment, community development, and workforce development. Learn more at bigsky economicdevelopment.org.